Hey Copper Nerds, a couple months ago I was hanging out with Jim Carr at the ANA when I took his advanced EAC class, and he made a casual comment while we were like walking to lunch or something about how the S-30 and the S-31 are the same die, just the S-31 was heavily reworked. And I tucked it away for later, but in my mind I was like, well, I know the lower hook's different. I know that the hair terminations are very different. So that didn't, I mean, look at those two. Look at the hair. Just look at the hair. Does that look the same to you? Does it? Does it look the same? Because it didn't to me, but when you look at it closely, it definitely is. Let's get into it. So these are Obverses 11 and 12, which are the two different Obverses that have the double lower lock. And one thing of note is that the shape of the double lower lock is clearly different, right? Look at particularly that lower hook. I mean, looks much different, right? But let's look at some other clues. I mean, see that gap or that void inside of the fatter lock of hair? Check out that little engraving mark right there. There's a lot of weird engraving inside of that hair lock. But one thing we're going to see a lot, and what I'm going to show you here, is that the dies have been resurfaced, where the surface of the die has been planed down. And what that does is it removes the shallower engraving from the die face. And what it looks like on the surface of the coin, when you see that, is like someone has taken this spot and filled it up with water a little bit. And then what the highest points would remain behind. So watch this. Just that little bit remains. The highest point from that weird engraving stuff that was happening inside of the hair, if we flood that out, there it is. The other thing that would have done is obscure what was left of this lower, thinner lock. And you're gonna see that they just added a bit of a tail to it, which hooked it, right? Now the overlay is not perfect here. We have a little bit of a shift. But look at that. It's just like, again, like you flooded it and then did a little re-engraving, and that looks the same. Let's take a look at the one. All that's happening here is, again, the shallower part of the engraving is planed away, creating a little bit of space. We lose a little bit of the tip of the one. We lose those shallow hair details, but it's all still there and the spacing is still the same. We lose the corner of the 7 just because of resurfacing the die. The shallower corner of that 7, it goes away. Now, a really neat area to look at here. Again, when you resurface that die heavily, what it appears to me is that you flooded it. Like this was topography on a map, and then we flooded it with water. Watch what happens. Those areas line up perfectly. So where it's flooded out, before, those are the low points. They just have some light engraving detail. But again, once we plane that surface down and flood it, bam, same. Let's check out some of these hair terminations, because the hair locks look much different, right? They all turn down. Start with these two. If we were to plane that down a bit and then re-engrave some ends of the hair that are going to curve down, that's what we see. How about up here? Look at that little chip in the field. It looks like that chip expands into the lower portion where it's already begun. And then they're just going to extend the hair from where they're currently at for their terminations. They're just going to extend that hair out and down. Oops, wrong direction. That doesn't help. Let's do that again. They're going to extend those hair details out and down. This one actually connects up with that die chip. Moving up here, same thing. Those hair details were just short and stubby. They're going to get extended. Pretty crazy, right? Let's check out the spacing on Liberty. Look at the letter spacing. Again, the overlay is not quite perfect, but letter spacing, orientation of R and T over the front of the hair, spacing of L from the cap, the shape of the letters themselves. Let's take a look at the pole. That's kind of fun. We're going to lose the shallower part of the bust tip. And again, this pole is going to, after resurfacing, be shallow, and it was re-engraved a little more ornately. But, or I don't know, ornately is the wrong word. A nice curvature. They spent a lot of time getting a nice curve, whereas this is kind of flat and ugly. Yeah. But look where the bust tip has sort of been lost from the die resurfacing. Let's look at the tip of the pole. This is really neat. So we start there. It's clearly got a point, and then we see a little bit of connection from either flow line or light engraving. Watch what happens later. Still to a spike, still's got that same kind of flow there. Let's check out the 9 and the 4. So there's our 4 at the beginning. Again, we're gonna see some of the edges on that soften, at the top particularly. Same with the 9. We're gonna lose a little bit of the lower loop on the 9. So I'm convinced, are you? Let me know in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Hey Copper Nerds, so I just made a video about how S-30 and S-31, Obverses 11 and 12 are actually the same Obverse, just heavily reworked, and we established that fairly conclusively using virtual Grellman. Eric in the comments asked me if the other marred field Obverses are also the same Obverse, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure they're not. S-38, 39, and 40 are certainly different. There is no double lower lock, but I figured I would check my books and look what we have here in noise. Obverse 11, S-30, 31, 38, 39, NC2, and 40. I had not noticed that before. Let's get into it. So I'm going to use virtual Grellman here. I did ask Tom if he would put together a marred field filter for us, so I'd imagine we'll be seeing that soon. But we're now studying Obverse 11 and 12 as last time. And then I gotta delete a few here so that we can easily scroll. 36, 37, here we are. Okay. So what we're gonna look at now is compare 31 to 38. Let's see what we see. Let's start with some easy stuff. Let's just look at our spacing. Man, okay, so we've got Liberty certainly looks closer to the dentals, which means they've probably been re-engraved if they are the same. Let's look at dental spacing over the Y. So we have the horizontal stands at the top of the Y. This one's fairly directly centered. That remains fairly centered. The shape of the letters at the bottom have been filled in. What's our spacing like here? Yeah, I mean, that lines up. Let's look at T. They sort of, the vertical stand is split there. Yeah, that looks about right if they extended those dentals. One just slightly left of the vertical of I. Yeah, that's funny. It looks like this one was probably shot through a slab. Hate slabs. That's definitely, yeah, you can see the edge of the slab and the scuffs on the slab. Wonderful. Okay, let's look at our MAR. Yeah, we have a little second one forming there, the first one there. There they are. Let's look at some, well, actually, I want to look right here. How'd they make this all work out? So big, heavy, lower lock. Still is heavy with sort of the heavier groove and then the lighter groove. Yep. That little shallow lower lock certainly could just be engraved away. 7 would have had to have been cleaned up a little bit, but look at the vertical stand of the 7's almost gone, likely from resurfacing. Our loop, our big heavy loop here that was talked about, 30 is real heavy, 31 a little less so. By the time we get to 38, look at that. It's flooding in, right? 39 and 40, gosh, yeah. But otherwise, our 1 spacing, let's look at the dental under the 1. Again, dental's extended, and the 1 sits over the top of those 2 dentals. Yeah, the 7 and the 9. Orientation looks the same. Let's look at hair. Okay. Heavy, chunky, little flyaways. Let's look at them more individually. Yep. That fits. A little offset, but yep. I could see that. Our kind of chisel point on the pole. See, that one went right to a dental. That's like they extended the dentals, oops, wrong direction. They extended the dentals past the tip of the pole, really. Let's look at where the R sits over the hair. Yeah. Look what they did with the bottoms of the letters. They blocked them all out, right, at the bottoms. I don't know. Again, I think I'm convinced. Are you? Hit me up in the comments. This is a wild adventure, everybody. Hit me in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. And if you're aware of any other things we should be investigating, it now looks like, I guess, another thing that this would mean is that most commonly we considered reverse die X to be the most heavily used of all of the 1794 dies. Reverse X had 6 different die pairings. Well, it looks like we might be at the same number of die pairings here as well, because we have 5 collectibles and 1 NC. So it looks like Obverse 11 got just as much mileage as Reverse Die X. That's wild. I want to see if Chuck noted anything. Let's see. Let's go to 30 on page 66. Yep, Chuck's got it too. Same as 30, 31, 38, 39, 40, NC2, amiable face. All right, well, this is kind of a conundrum because I spend a lot of time in these books and I'm embarrassed that I haven't noticed this. I think it's just that there is sincerely, the lower hook is different enough that makes one think, and the hair ends, not to dig much deeper. But then over here, the Mar is more significant. There is no double lower lock. That throws a guy off. And then lots of re-engraving, because remember we started off with the flattened out details after the dies had been resurfaced, and then that is returned with a little different shape to the middle of the hair there, right? There is different shape to all that. And then as it progresses, again, we lose some of the shallow details, but I don't know. Okay, I'd already closed this one out once. Let's close it out again. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll hit you up in the, no. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one. Hit me up in the comments. Guys, I'm a mess. I haven't had any coffee yet. I just woke up. I'm gonna throw this up anyway. I'm gonna go sit down with my dad, have coffee, and tell him about this. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.